Episode 3. We're doing it again. And I couldn't be happier. Someone made a comment last time, and it's a really good point. I have never introduced myself on the show, which is fine because I'm not really the whole point. The whole point is right over here, which I point the wrong way. But I'm Jeff, and we're Dirty Pool Pinball. We do all sorts of fun stuff. We do pinball things. We do podcast things. And I couldn't be happier to be joined right now with Johnny Crap, which I want to clarify because your website does say you had an interview a while ago stating that you like the nom or your real name, Jonathan Bergeron or Bergeron. Pronunciation is not good for my French Canadianness. Please correct me.
Yeah, no, it's Jonathan Bergeron. Like, so it's Jonathan Bergeron, basically like Tom Bergeron, the America's funniest home videos. So it's that family name, and yeah, my name's Jonathan. I'm well known under Johnny Crap. So like, if this is something I have to deal with, like I'll carry it to the end. But like business-wise, I think Jonathan is like where it sounds better.
I guess. I mean, having the word crap in it is also not, it sends a certain message. But at the same token, I mean, you come from a punk rock background, or punk background, you come from graffiti world. I mean, there's a bit of a respect to the not giving a fuck attitude that goes along with that. I mean, can we talk about that? You grew up and born in Montreal, and in your teens you got into the culture of skateboarding and punk. Yeah,
like for sure. Like I was always interested by like the West Coast culture in general. So I dove into, well, at first it was like BMX. I was really into BMX, and then like skateboard finally made it like to Montreal, like probably a couple of years later, and then later than in California and everywhere else. And then I dove into that, and then like of course like skateboarding has like a huge culture around it, and that's what like hooked me up. I started like listening to punk rock a lot, and doing graffiti, like yeah, that's how I ended up in that world. Yeah.
Awesome. What's the better trick, tray flip or heel flip?
Oh, dude, like we were before that. Like I kind of like started quitting on skateboarding, like doing like tricks when all that stuff was like happening. I was more like the generation of all the boneless, no comply, and like the old school, vintage. Old school stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old school tricks for sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in our little pre-chat that Montreal is kind of like the punk rock side project, or Toronto, or I guess I said it was the side project, but you said it was kind of a hippie art side thing of Toronto. For people that don't live in Canada, can you give a little bit of info about what the art scenes are like in Canada?
Well, Quebec is very like the background of Quebec is like, it was French speaking, and then like within Canada, which is like mostly English speaking, we were always kind of like the province that was like set apart from like Canada, so like we're always like kind of like rebels, and so there's a big background of like kind of like hippie music and like punk rock music later. So like I would say that Toronto is like a bit more like business oriented. There's more money probably in Toronto than in Montreal, but Montreal is like has this like gypsy punk rock side to it that's kind of cool. Like it's like a good mix, and it's like really well mixed too, like with Anglos and Francophones. Like it's a really diverse like little melting pot here.
So what age were you when you got into graffiti, and what was the what's the strangest thing you've ever tagged?
I mean, I tagged a lot of strange things, but like I was pretty young, like probably like I remember like doing graph like in a skateboard store on the South Shore, like where I grew up, and then I was probably like 14 about then. That was like the first job I did, but like before that, like I was painting like under like little bridge, like in like my little town, and things like that.
And so you had
what's that?
Your moniker was Zen, right? Was that your graffiti moniker as well, or no?
Yeah, I did karate from like 5 to about 18. So like everything that was kind of like Japanese and like, karate oriented, like, karate was like huge when I was a kid, like, like all those ninja movies and like
Sure.
with Shokozuki movies and things like that, even like the series with Lee Van Cleef, and like it was all like, like around. And then when it was time to pick up like my name, my graph name, I went with Zen because it had like a relation with like mid station and like um, the letters, like just calligraphic aspect of it. So yeah.
Sure. At some point, you transitioned over towards the Calavera man, though. So at one point in your artist career, you were like you abandoned karate and pushed it towards kind of like Mexican culture.
Yeah, well, I had like it was basically I was doing posters and like I was part of the lowbrow kind of community, doing posters for bands that was that were passing by Montreal, and then I started doing like more and more like hot rod and like some of that pinup stuff, and then like the Mexican aspect of it was always kind of like part of it because it was there from um my skateboard years too, with like suicidal tendencies and like dog down skateboard and all that stuff. So, and then oh, nice turquoise, and then so from there, I did a couple of years of, I guess, cultural appropriation now. Like, so I was really into like that little Cavalera characters that like I kind of build up, and then like I was putting them in different like situations and stuff like that. So at that point, I was doing like some shows at like Gallery 1988 in LA and San Francisco too. Yeah, so I did that character a couple of years until I kind of like retired him and then moved on to different stuff.
So I guess that answers my other question. I was kind of hoping that maybe in some of the pinball machines that you worked on, which by the way, if you don't know, you have worked on these, which I own some of them. Have you ever put a Calavera Easter egg or another art Easter egg in any of the Playfield artwork?
No, none of that that kind of stuff. No.
Pinball people are big on the Easter eggs. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I have like in Labrynth we had like a bunch of the David Bowie rocks and things like that. But yeah, like I've never put like any personal stuff in it. I know in Dune there's like a little callback to Labrynth somewhere. But,
I mean, as their second
it.
game, I'm not surprised that they want to. I mean, they're building a brand of new pinball machines. In one of your interviews a while ago, you mentioned that the concept of having to manage the kind of creativity and then working with not selling out, but working for a business. Do you find that working in an IP, that has restrictions is a limiting factor, or does that not really come into play when you're trying to be creative with Playfield artwork?
I try to service the IP, like it's I really am brought in to bring their vision to life. So I try to find ways that accommodates me, like what I want to do, but at the same time, like do it within the parameters of what they request.
Sure.
I try to, like, I really try to have as little problems as possible with a license. Like, I'm not gonna try to push like crazy stuff or like out of nowhere. Like you just want to. You want to make it easy for them to to trust you with what you're doing and like take it from there.
Sure. There's two things that I specifically really love about your Playfield artwork in general. And that the first one is I love the conveyance of information in terms of like ball path on the playfield. And you can see that a lot more in Dune, but we have Labrynth pulled up here and you can see very clearly that kind of like the idea of where to carry the ball. Like, here that the scoop is very important as all three characters kind of line up for it, and that this pathway here leads into something. Like, there's just a lot of motivation on the playfield that goes into intelligently helping the player know what to do without even having to say anything. How do you go about even beginning to plan that when you're starting to kind of frame out what you're working on?
On Labyrinth, I had more of a play field that was already done. Like the whitewood was done and the inserts were there. So I was trying to work with them. You try to like use the elements of the license to kind of like create some path. For Dune, I was there from the beginning, like, cause like on Labyrinth, like I was brought in, most of the art package was done. Only had like the what's under the glass to do, and the alternate backglass following that. So some of the work was already done, and then when I got to Dune, like it was really early in the process, and we all kind of like all worked together to like have the inserts placed a bit in a way where I could work with the playfield, like with the artwork, a bit like like easier, like make it easier for me to work with what they were giving me.
Sure. It seems like the details, there's a lot of detail work, and I think that maybe that some of this comes from your ink drawing kind of background. But looking at like the sand marks on the on Dune and tons of brickwork that go into Labyrinth, what's an area that had so much detail work that it was just like it didn't give you trouble, but you were just like, man, what am I doing all this detail work? Is someone going to even notice this?
Yeah, most of it is like it's all done by hand too. Like I didn't really, like on Labyrinth, like there's no like I did 5 bricks and then just like
clone it.
Yeah, clone it. I really like every brick that's there, like basically I drew. So whenever like they were moving an insert by like, a 1/4 inch, like I'd be like, oh shoot, like there's nothing under there, and then now I have to move all those bricks. And but yeah, like it's just I do like adding a lot of details, and like it's a bit of my it's like every time I sit down with like just ink and like paper, like I start doing a drawing and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like, I'm gonna make this one like simple, easy, quick, not too detailed. And then within like 5 minutes, like I'm doing like tiny little lines, like to kind of like bring it way more to life than I was planning at the beginning. So I think it's like it's a curse and and not a curse at the same time.
Yeah, but it gives such a character and detail to the games that I think the other artwork doesn't have. Do you hand draw most of the assets before scanning them in, I guess, and then reworking with them digitally, or?
No, well, I mean, I would love to paint everything by hand or draw everything by hand, but it's just like the deadlines are a bit like more intense than they used to be, and then I just like you have to work digitally now. Like it's just easier. Like if I have to move something, like it's not like a big problem, and scanning stuff takes a lot of time too. Like because you have to clean them up. Like they're never like as neat as you want them to be. Like because I especially when I do inks, like I ink like really clean. So when I scan them and there's like some leftover stuff here and there, like it's just it's too much. Like it's time consuming.
Sure.
And with these projects, like you need to deliver the goods at a certain point too. So like it's just I know some other artists like ink everything by hand and scan, and like it's just too much. I find it depends on the project too. Like I assume like if I had like some kind of like theme that like would be more appropriate for it, like I could work that way. But yeah, like so far what I've worked on, like I think the digital can, but you can make stuff too that looks like it's all hand done.
So I think the second thing that I think is incredibly impressive about your artwork is the aprons, and I think that the apron artwork is pretty underutilized in a lot of games. but both Labrynth and Dune, obviously. And as I just pulled up the Jurassic Park home pin, which I want to jump into in just a second, since I believe that was your first pinball project with Stern, right? And your gateway into the pinball art world.
Not the home pin. I did like the original 3 games with Keith first.
Oh, interesting. Okay. For some reason, I assumed that the home pin was first, as it was kind of like the introduction to
the home pin was like Jack Danger's first game.
For sure.
So it was like basically they reused some of the art package from like the 3 previous art package, and then I did a new Backglass for that and a new Playfield and the Apron, like as you see. But that was like basically my 4th Jurassic Park before doing the 5th.
I was about to say, is there a point where you're just like, man, I would really like to not work on dinosaurs anymore and draw something other than islands?
I told Greg back then, I'm like, I can do some other stuff than dinosaurs, So
so for someone like me who doesn't know the pipeline that goes into making a pinball playfield, what can you walk us through? Kind of like, hey, they reach out to you, they're like, we have an idea. You mentioned the whitewood is either maybe done or maybe not. For people that don't know, whitewood is when they're kind of like testing out what the actual playfield is going to look like to make sure it flows well before it has any art assets or anything else onto it. So when are you involved in the project? How long does it take, the production cycle? And what is the workflow like?
Like so far with each company, because I worked with Multimorphic, Stern, and Barrels of Fun, and like each company has its own workflow. With Stern, like basically, I was brought in and like the whitewood was almost done. I was working on the art package before doing the playfield, and then they sent me the file for the playfield. Well, first I visited, like I saw how the whitewood was progressing, and I was shooting like and stuff like that, and then I went back to Montreal and I started sketching for it. And with Barrels of Fun, it was like very different. Like I was on Labrynth, I was brought at the end just because it was already ongoing, like the project was ongoing. But when I did the Dune, like I was brought in like from the beginning, like I knew that David was about to sign the license and they signed a contract with the licensor, and then that I would be on that game. So I had like a different experience for that one, because like I was part of the the Zoom meetings, and like we all discussed like what could we do, and everybody has like a bit of an idea of what they will do, but discussing with other people, sometimes like you make something better, like the guy planning the rules like can tell you, yeah, but that area is going to be more like that, and then he gives you an idea of what to do with it. So so like
funny you mentioned,
so like, what's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so like on Dune, like my experience was just different than like the previous experiences.
Adam Savage posted his kind of behind the scenes with David, and it's funny you mentioned that, working in a team and taking ideas and being humble about it. David was talking about how he's trying to keep an open mind, because everyone on the team can come up with ideas, and some of them are just so good that they're like, we have to entertain this and see how we can integrate it. So it's funny that you mentioned that as well. It seems like Barrels has got a really inclusive kind of like design process when it comes to start to finish on their games.
Yeah, for sure. Like it was very inclusive, like way of working. Everybody had ideas, and they're still we're still implementing like a lot of those ideas right now, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the game progresses.
I'm excited for mine. It's not here yet, but I'm also excited for the alternate Backglass. Not that I don't like what you've done, but I don't want to look at Timothy Chalamet, which I can't wait for the alternate Backglass. Can we get an idea of when that might be coming, or is that not on the agenda to talk about?
Yeah, I don't have like any info really to give you about that. I wish I could, but
I'm assuming you're working on the Backglass though. Can we expect something that's in the similar style?
It's on the air. there'll be something, and I mean, it's not going to be like something that clashes with the rest of the game. That's for sure.
Cool. So outside of all the pinball stuff, it's also you do band. You do a lot of band things. You've worked for a slew of artists that people probably know. Everything from like I don't know Anthrax to Slayer. What is it like to produce merchandise for bands?
It's great. I mean, like I grew up listening to a lot of those bands, and I remember my mom telling me like, like the, those bands are not going to be around back, like when you're older and stuff, and they're still all around. Like it's incredible the amount of bands that I listened to when I was younger that I now had the chance to work with. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it sounds like your mom was wrong because
yeah,
Slayer's still definitely around.
yeah, she was right about a bunch of stuff, but not. Yeah, no, it's like I grew up listening to all that music, so it was just like back then thinking about working for those bands was kind of crazy, but like once the internet started like being more and more popular and like easier for you to show your artwork online, all of a sudden like you had a chance to connect with some of these people that were in charge of like giving you work. So I yeah, like a long time ago there was like a poster site for like it was like a gigposter.com. It was like a forum for like people who do like artwork for bands and stuff like that. And then I started posting my artwork on there. And then someone noticed, I guess, some of my drawings, and they're like, did you ever think of doing merch for a band? And I was like, well, yeah, but like, I don't know anyone. Like, I was in Montreal, and it was someone from, I think it was someone from New York back then that hit me up, and so they offered me to work on Kid Rock, and I did a t-shirt, two t-shirts for Kid Rock back then, and yeah, and then it snowballed from there.
Did someone from the pinball community or something see your artwork style from your band merchandise and then offer the opportunity to work on that? What bridged the gap between graffiti and fine art and your posters and merch to this?
Yeah, it's Zombie Eddie. Zombie Eddie is responsible for bringing me in. I think we knew each other from like that poster community back then, and we chatted a couple of times, and but that was like it's not like we're buddies or anything like that. We just knew of each other's work, and then he hit me up one day because Stern was looking for someone to do dinosaurs, and then that's how I was brought into pinball.
And the rest is history. I mean, I feel like that's just there's a mutual
I don't know about
respect.
history, but
Well, I mean, you've worked on a pretty, your body of work is increasing rapidly. And you've certainly established yourself as someone who understands the kind of like idea behind designing artwork for playfields. I mean, it's very different than merchandise. What was the biggest shocker to you from transitioning from like a center graphic with text to having to, as we mentioned before, kind of describe how to play the game visually?
Yeah, the playfield for sure was like the biggest thing. Like that's why like sometimes like people approach like other artists like to do like a pinball art package, and it's like it's hard for them to like see. They're like at first they jump on the idea. They're like, oh yeah, I want to do a pinball, but then like once you see a playfield and like what it needs, as far as like like placing the assets and like making sure that like there's like ball paths and all that stuff, like all the info that you have to put on there and organize it in a way that's not like super chaotic. And yeah, so like you have to see it, and like some artists are like very like when they see that they're like, oh, dude, like I can't do that, like there's like I'm not interested anymore, so um but if you stick to it, there's always people who are willing to help you. Like the art director is going to help you. Like I had Greg Freres like back then, like to help me doing Jurassic Park. So like he was like, a huge help. You know, like it's someone who has like tons of experience, knows what he's doing, and he could push me in the right direction without telling me what to do. Like, you know, like he let me have all the freedom I wanted, and but at the same time, you know, like could direct me in the right direction. So that's like I would say like the playfield is like the hardest thing to do for a pinball. Yeah.
You mentioned Golden State going down there since you had done their poster. Do you play pinball? Are you a pinball fan, or is this more of an art outlet?
Yeah. No, since no, I'm not just in there like just to put my art on there and like, then like, you know, just look at people looking at my artwork. Like I like to play those games. I started playing as soon as Jurassic Park came out. I joined the league here in Montreal, and I've been going since. You know, I hate like, you know, whenever there's a tournament, like I'm there. I'm going to Golden State because I did the poster, and then they wanted me to come down and see the show and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go down, play. You know, hopefully play with people, meet new friends. I like the community aspect of pinball. You know,
Sure, that was kind of where I was getting
it's
to with
nice.
that.
It's nice. Yeah, it's nice to have pinball like games at home, but like if you never go out and like meet people that play the games, it's like, you know, you're not really in it.
Sure. Have you had any memorable encounters with fans that were either fans of your work before pinball, or is it kind of annoying in league where you're just like, you're the guy who does artwork for pinball machines, and everyone's like, that's the guy?
Oh no, like this, people don't like really give a crap about me at the league. they they're all super nice. They you know, they acknowledge like, you know, some of them like don't even know that I do artwork for pinball. It's not something like if we play together, it's not something that I bring up. Like I just, you know,
Sure.
I'm just
Yeah,
happy
why would
being
you?
there. I'm happy being there, like playing, and you know, if somebody brings it up, like happy to chat about it. But you know, it's yeah,
So what's your
I don't
favorite
mind
game
when
then?
people talk to me about it. My favorite game. I mean, it goes in waves, I guess. Like, you know, sometimes I like something for a while. Like I was playing Metallica a lot for a while, and then I got into the Dungeon and Dragon one. I like the progress aspect of it. I otherwise, you know, a good game of Dolly is always nice between games. Flash Gordon, we have Flash Gordon too right now
Oh man,
at the
that's a
bar,
brutal
and
game.
yeah, but I actually like brutal games. You know, like it's I find like the shorter gameplay that have like really like dangerous shots. Like I do enjoy those. Like I suck at them. Like I'm not good at them, but I keep coming back for more. So
That's what's so awesome about pinball, though, is you don't have to be good to have a good time. Just watching the physics
yeah,
balls slam around and even, successfully making a shot can once in a while really, there's a guy, Brassley Gaming, who just every once in a while makes a good shot, but the rest of his play is absolutely terrible. He's probably one of the worst pinball players I've ever seen, but he enjoys it, and that's really what matters.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
um, fantastic. I mean, I think I'm checking my notes right now. So other than Golden State, is there anything going on in the pinball world and your personal life or work that you'd like to share with anybody?
Uh, no, I mean like right now it's a bit like of a downtime. Like I have some poster projects and like, but no huge project right now at the time. So I'm looking forward just like sitting back and like painting a bit in the studio. You know, like I like to paint with oils and stuff like that. So I might just get back to painting for a little bit till the next big project, and then I know like I'm doing Golden State, then going up 2 weeks later, I'm going to Northwest Pinball Festival, Pinball and Arcade Show. Sorry, and then yeah, that's about it.
What is the experience? Do you bring a booth over? I mean, are you there just as
Oh
a
no,
as a
no, like
participant, just to appreciate
yeah.
the
At
event?
first, like Jerry in Tacoma, like offered me a booth like last year, and I was like, no, like I don't want to be stuck behind a booth, and like I just want to walk around and play games that I've never played, like find a sorcerer or something like that, and then try them while I see them, So I don't want to be. I want to hang out with people and just chat and walk around. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have a favorite encounter moment that happened at an event? As someone who's gone to like only like California Extreme and a handful of others, I feel like it can be pretty overwhelming walking onto a convention floor that's just like absolute like either pinball heaven or pinball hell, depending on how overloaded your senses are.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to just do my thing and just walk around and like play games uh, by myself a lot. Like just being free to like try whatever I want and not like follow someone else or like someone else has to follow me. So no, like sometimes like I run into people that we've been chatting online, like we sort of think that we know each other, and then we run into each other at like a show, and then can play a couple of games and then move on. So yeah.
Nice. You mentioned kind of like the creative reset with oil painting. I feel like anybody that's in the creative world and doing it professionally knows that like being able to take a moment and kind of not pump the brakes, but just to get a creative outlet of stuff that isn't being requested by anybody, that just is your own creative flow coming out, is super important. Is there a specific style, or is there a place to see any of Johnny Crapp's personal artwork that is not, that's for Johnny?
No, like usually like it's just on my Instagram that I post stuff. Like I used to be in the gallery scene, and like I got sort of like tired of it. Like it was just like a constant like pushing stuff just to be in galleries, and then the whole like you do so much work, and sometimes the galleries don't really do their part of the work. We're like pushing your work, and
it's like a hustle in a not a redeeming way.
Yeah,
right?
and then like you meet like people who are interested in the painting, but all they want's like like a cool story to go with the painting, instead of just appreciating the painting for what it is and like coming up with their own stuff. So yeah, like I kind of like let that go. I like to paint just for myself. Like I'm a bit of a, I like to do plein air painting. I haven't done enough lately, but like now it's summer is starting. It's finally starting to be nice out here. So I'll probably like put my gear together and try to walk around the city and find cool spots. Like I like to paint garbage, like dumpsters and stuff like that, like back alleys.
So are you
So
painting dumpsters that have graffiti on them? So this is like kind of an inception
yeah,
moment
it's
where
kind
you
of
came
like
from graffiti and now you're painting graffiti.
yeah, sort of like there's a bit of that. I mean, I always found like the alleys like more interesting than the front of the street. Like the front of the street, everybody shows you what they want you to see, and in the back, that's where you see like like if like the uncleanliness. I don't know how to say it exactly, but like it's a bit dirtier. It's like a bit like more rough, and I do like that. So yeah.
I mean, grungy urban artwork is absolutely its own. I mean, I lived in New York
Yeah.
for 5 years, and it really is. Even an alleyway can have a composition to it and something going on in
Oh
there
yeah.
that catches an eye.
Yeah, New York alleyways are great.
Johnny Button is asking for me to play some Kong, but it does bring up an interesting point. Have you seen Kong's Playfield?
Not in person.
Uh, I'm just
I've seen it
curious your
though
thoughts
online.
on. It's very busy. There's a lot on it, and as an artist who has done playfields, I'm just curious what your thoughts on that, and not to try to bait you to say something positive or negative. It's just as a piece of artwork, there's a lot going on there, and I'm curious how you feel about. Is there a place where there's too much on a playfield where you kind of get overload, or is
I mean,
is
we
is there
always
no limit? I'm trying to pull up a picture of it.
Yeah, we always think that before seeing it in person, like, and then you see it in person, it usually makes sense. So like I haven't seen Kong in person, but I did like the playfield on it. Yes, there is more on it. Like, but like not every playfield has to be like done the same way. Like each artist has like his own kind of thing to bring to the table. Like so, like I do really like the what I've seen the most of the playfield was like the centerpiece that like it's the callback to the old game.
Right,
And
the
I
Data
thought
East.
it was really,
For people who don't know, the Data East game that never saw the light of day is where
I think
the
it was
center.
very limited. Yeah. So, but I really like what I think it's like Greg and Kevin that did most of that, and I really enjoyed that. So,
Nice.
but I'm looking forward like seeing it in person. Like I can't really, you know, I I think it looks pretty awesome. So I'm looking
I,
forward to seeing it in person.
I
And
think
it's kind of funny because like it came out at the same time as like Dune, and it's like we couldn't be more polar opposites, like art wise. So like, and I think like both kind of work, both approach like kind of work in their own
totally. People
lane.
were critical that Dune was too brown and this and that, or when I was talking about it, and I think that they really missed kind of
just wait till they see the next one.
But I think they missed
Next
kind
one
of the point.
it's a UPS game. Next one.
UPS, like the postal service, amazing, man. My
Yeah.
dreams of an original IP based on mail delivery are coming true. Finally.
Finally.
But no, what I was going to say is that I think that you picked a very deliberate kind of like 3-color palette for it, with the cyans, with the oranges, and with the tans. And then they use the lighting system to help kind of add additional color to it during certain scenes with the day-night cycle. And I think that there's two directions in pinball that seem to exist, where one is it's like more lights, more rainbows, kind of sensory overload. And then there's the other path, which is kind of like more deliberate design choices, more minimal color palette, and I don't want to say more like educated design, but like just it's minimal in a way that is deliberate. And
But I think at the same time it depends on the license too. Like if I had something else than Dune, like it would have been maybe like an overload of colors. Like it just you try to like work with the license, like try to represent it the best way you can. Um, like Dune, like it's either like people complain that it's not a world under glass enough, or it's too much a world under glass. So like we really wanted to bring the planet and put it under glass. And
I think the sculpts absolutely make that. I mean, it's the pinball machine. Like, I was talking with Bowen. He was like, best caverns or best mountains since what was the game? Yeah, maybe somebody in chat can remember. But it really is like it's truly 3-dimensional, and it really does feel like it's got a whole depth of 3-dimensional depth to it.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it in person, but like
I have, yeah.
It really looks cool. Yeah, it really looks cool like in person. So, and I wanted to bring colors, like basically like the night and day cycles like inform a lot of the colors that are on the game, and it's also like drawn from like the movies. Like the movies, they have those colors are pretty prominent in the movies, and so I brought that in, and I wanted to have basically a playfield under sand, like so the sand, like they say in the movie, the sand gets everywhere. Like it's basically a playfield that has the sand like falling off from like all the mechs and the sculpts, and so yeah.
Right. Yeah. Divisible says that the table feels very mature, and I think that's a good term for it. Also, Dustin reminded me that it was Flintstones that Bowen said that Dune has the best 3-dimensional sculpted rocks since Flintstones, which I think is pretty great.
That's funny.
But your point to being in front of the playfield and actually seeing it's very true. And we do have a Kong now, and the photos made it look overload, and when you actually see it in person, like it makes a lot more sense. And I think that that's really important to be able to experience that. On the devil's advocate, I'm curious, is there anything that you were doing in the artwork where you're working, on the computer and it just like looks so awesome, and then when you see it translated to the playfield, you're like, ooh, that didn't work quite how I imagined it, and did it need to get reworked, or was it just like, that's it? No one's going to notice because you're the artist. You have the most tuned eye to be critical on your own work.
Yeah, I mean, like as artists, we always hate whatever we just finished, you know, like you kind of want to move on to the next one and not look back too much. There's always stuff that like I could have polished more or like less or move this there. It's just, you know, you just can't. At some point, you have to put your foot down and be like, you know, or your pencil down and be like, this is done. You know, like
right.
Whatever I'm doing right now, like I could keep pushing it, but I will be the only one that sees that. You know, so like that happened a bit like when I was like trying to bring like little grains of sand everywhere, like over the playfield, and you know, at some point David's like, I'm not sure we're gonna see all that, you know. I'm like, I know it's just me. Like I do see it. Like nobody's gonna notice it, but like I do see it. So
do you think that since it is your
to,
third game that it's a sign of experience to kind of know when to be able to walk on or move on from a project? Like would that decision have been harder on Jurassic Park where you're just like, oh my God, this is my first one. Every dinosaur tooth needs to be perfect.
yeah, like the first one was very daunting because it's not like a world that I was part of either. So I try to do as much as possible, like when it comes down to research before, you know, like research about pinball, you know, like trying to see what's out there and like what I can draw in and like not not steal from, but like influence myself from, you know, like we and try to reinvent it in my own, you know, style. So
sure, iteration instead
yeah,
of
yeah,
you know,
yeah, for sure.
theft or
So
whatever.
like, you know, I think like any other pinball artist would be, you know, probably say the same thing too. Like the first one, like it's a bit more daunting, you know. But
Right.
like as you do more, like and especially like I think playing pinball a lot um, will make you notice stuff more and like will inform my decisions, like you know, in the future.
Sure,
So
sure.
you know, I think like doing this one now I look more at the rules and like you know I'm starting to be a bit more like before that like I was just trying to make shots, but now I'm trying to you know see what the shots do and like I still suck at it, but like you know I'm trying, but at least I understand more what I'm doing, and what I mean is like it's influencing probably how I'm working on a playfield now.
Do you think not knowing anything about pinball gave a certain kind of like different creative freedom on some of your kind of design choices with Jurassic Park?
Uh, no, like I mean, I'm happy with what I did at the
That's
time.
beautiful.
Like
I have a Jurassic Park.
if I have to do if I have to do a sixth Jurassic Park, you know, it would be different, you know. Like, but it is what it is. Like I had the chance on the home pin to redo the playfield. So the playfield, like I fixed little things that like was bugging me without changing too much. But yeah.
That's funny. So we have a few good chat questions. One of them is regarding redoing work in a previous machine, which you kind of touched base on. Before we jump in that real quick, though, I have some important artwork that a fan did that I, as a fellow fine artist, I was hoping that maybe you could give a little bit of a critique for them and just tell me what you think about this.
Oof.
It's Godzilla, I think. I just, as an artist, if you could give us like a fine critique of this, what would that be?
Ooh, this is nice. That would be a great alternate Backglass. I like how somebody dropped his water glass or juice over the O.
It's definitely not
And
alcohol. Yeah,
that's no, yeah. It's pretty cool though. It's nice.
nice. So you're saying that this could be an alternate Backglass for Stern's Godzilla?
I thought it was already. I think it
if they
should.
were,
I mean,
if they
I
made
don't know.
if they made a
I think you should
green and
order
white
it
version
right away.
So Good Grief asks, he says, is there constructive criticism in the process? Like how is the feedback process work between company to company?
Company to company. I don't. It's more like company to licensor. Like I would say, like the art directors in general are pretty easygoing in pinball. Like they just kind of like they rely on you to do your part of the job. If they have to like pull you in a direction that because you're going too far in a certain direction that's not like it's not gonna service the license properly. Um, they do that, but like so far people I've worked with are pretty easygoing. They're you know they rely on you to come up with like cool ideas and and then implement them. And yeah, like as long as you can get approval from the licensor, like sometimes the licensor would push back, but I've been pretty lucky so far. Like there was no major pushback on most of the game, like most of the stuff I've done in pinball. So
What's the
you
start
know,
to finish timeline that happens for like from delivering final assets to getting the call that says, "Hey, we want you to start working on this." What is the average? I know that each pin probably has a slightly different time based on what you said between like Labrynth and Dune, but
yeah, it depends on the projected release date. Some are more advanced. Like I can't really say like when I joined to Stern to do Jurassic Park. I think everything was done within about 7 months, 7 to 8 months.
oh, that's
Um,
that's much longer than I thought it was going to be. But
yeah, but it's like not necessarily the full nonstop too. I always work on other stuff on the side. Sometime like you wait for licensor approval and you think they're gonna get back to you the next day, but like sometimes like a week and a half, like so you never know really. Like each one is different. On
the feedback
Dune
loop.
we had yeah, on Dune we had like I was part of the theme like from the beginning, so like it was way longer, but like the time to do the artwork at the end was like probably similar, like so yeah, I would say it's about that.
Do you work directly with the licensor, or does it kind of go through a middleman at the company as a
No,
director,
it
or are you
goes
acting?
to yeah, no, it goes through either like the art director or like the guy who dealt with the license.
Interesting. So Forever Tilted asks, he's like, "What's your if you had a dream pin theme that you could do the artwork for? Which theme would it be?"
Conan the Barbarian.
Oh my God,
Like
I would
I keep
I would kill for
I,
a
ke-
A Conan machine. Are you
I,
kidding me?
ke-
Basil
I keep bringing
Palladorus
it up.
original music. Oh my God, that would be so good.
Yeah.
Wow, now I really want to. All right, pinball companies, if any of you are watching this, Conan, get Johnny Kraft to do the artwork. I'm going to keep pointing the wrong way.
But it has
Conan
to
needs
be
to
like
happen.
needs to be hand painted, like the old school Frazetta looking
Oh, for sure.
Conan.
Who's Groth? Who's that really famous original kind of like from the early 90s, like medieval artist? I want to say it's
I don't know.
Groth. I can't remember now.
I am terrible with names.
Same. That's why I have chat to help me out. They really carry. They're the ones who are the real stars of the channel. Good Grief Astley says, is there a process you follow? Like, do you start with the backglass before you do the playfield or side art, cabinet aspects? What does one inspire the next? Since there's so many different components that go into making artwork for a pinball machine inside and out, what's the pathway for that?
It would be I think the backglass. The backglass is like what brings the people to look at a game. Unless you're coming from far, like can see it from the side, and there's only one in the place. Usually, it's a
So you
lineup
start
of
with the backglass?
games. Yeah, because like usually, like that's what's gonna give like the flavor to the rest. Um, that's where you're gonna like certain backglass has to have more elements from like the gameplay. Um, Dune right now is more about like what is Dune like. Whenever we had like the posters for Dune, like it was always that kind of composition. So like that was kind of like what I was going for, like kind of a brand recognition.
Sure.
Um, but some games like like you see more action on my Jurassic Park, and you see like with the truck and everything. Um, so yeah, like I think the Backglass is what like draws people, like so you kind of tend to start with that. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna come back as you work on the rest of the art package and not gonna come back to the Backglass and be like, oh, I can change this, twist this, like like move this element, and so yeah.
Sure. I don't want to skip out on Multimorphic. I mean, one reason that I'm doing a lot of these interviews is to help cover some of the smaller pinball companies, which I don't know if Multimorphic really counts as small with how many games they have. But Bowen designed Final Resistance, and you also worked on the art package for that. And we've got the Backglass for that pulled up right now.
Yeah, it was Scott Danesi.
I'm sorry?
Scott Danesi
Yes. Yeah.
designed it, yeah.
So I don't know. I just wanted to plug them so people remember that there's other companies out there other than Stern and
Yeah, that was
Jersey Jack.
that was a fun project. It was like a different, like different type of pinball, like with
Right. So since the Playfield's
screen at
mostly
the
an
bottom,
LCD
so-
screen, how do you go
Yeah.
through? What is the different design challenge with that?
Well, when Scott approached me to do that, like his idea was to do more of a static, old school playfield for the like the use of the screen would be more like a playfield that is more common in pinball. So that's what we went for. So like the inserts are there at all time. There's still some animation, but less than in other multimorphic games. And
Amazing.
yeah, that was a fun project to work on.
Yeah. I mean, I love that
And
it's
I was
got
like
its
a
own.
big fan of I was a big fan of TNA too. So like working on Scott's next game, like it was
Yeah, I think
interesting.
people are really polarized on Total Nuclear Annihilation, and I think that's because it's such a quick playing game. And I couldn't be happier
Yeah.
about that. I don't think every game needs to be a 50-minute tournament, slog.
Oh,
I
it's
love how
brutal.
fast and fun it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of Bowen, like I was at Scott's once, and like we saw Bowen and someone else, I forget his name, but like both of them working, like playing a two-player game and both finishing the game. Like that was incredible.
oh wow,
It was like
that's when you know
amazing.
you're just like a different level pinball player when you're just like
Yeah.
completing
At
the
first,
game.
At first, we were all playing like on games around that game, but at some point, there was like getting so deep like in the game that we were like everybody stopped and like we just watched them finishing the game like back
Was
to
it
back.
TNA?
It was
Man, it's so
incredible.
hard to get through all 10 reactors. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and they both did. Yeah, that was awesome.
Wow. That's fantastic. Well, again, Johnny, thanks or Jonathan. I don't want to keep using your shortened nomer.
Oh, whatever.
Thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about your career
problem.
and growing up and doing artwork. I keep asking people what pinball machine that they would ask to add to their collection, and I keep picking 3 horrible pinball machines in the hopes that they have no choice but picking them. But I think in honor of this conversation, I'm going to ask you a question, and I would like you to provide me 3 things. Johnny, what's best in life?
What's best in life? I mean, probably seeing 2 guys finishing TNA.
Okay, that's one.
Um,
Does hearing the lamentation of the other tournament players count as one as well, or no?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, but and then I would go with starting a painting. Like starting a painting is amazing.
Amazing. So watching people tear up pinball and completing your artwork in a way that makes you happy, that's the path to true happiness right there.
Yeah, it's
All
more
right,
about
chat.
starting a painting.
I'm sorry, but starting the painting is the best or the worst part?
Oh, it's the best. Like finishing it is the worst. Like it's hard to make that decision when you're done. So, but like it's exciting at the beginning when you start it. So
Do you normally paint large format canvas or small? What's your chosen medium
it
size?
depends on the time I have. Yeah, I would love to paint like huge all the time, but it takes space. So yeah.
Also, oils are not exactly cheap.
Yeah, there's that too, but I also do acrylics. I do, there's I do airbrush, like I do everything.
I feel like oil paint technology's come a long way. I remember when I was painting, it was linseed oil was required in order to make sure that it would, you could keep it malleable and have it dry in a somewhat reasonable amount of time, or at least work with it.
Yeah.
What is the current oil painting technology gone to, or what's your method of mix?
I work with Liquin. Like Liquin is like a seccative medium, so like it dries a bit faster. Um, but I mean, I say that, but then like I I'm addicted to buying new mediums and new paint and trying something else. So like I just keep experimenting.
Cool. All right, I'm going to throw it to chat for any last questions, and then I want to say thank you again and sign off. Forever Tilted asks, "What do you feel about? How do you feel about the 3 package Stern format for art kits? And that is there something that it's tiring about revisioning the same piece of artwork in 3 different ways?" Or like, do you prefer doing one art package similar to the barrel style versus Stern's kind of like 3-tiered system? Or does that not even come into your thought process?
Yeah, no, like they asked me to do something and I do it.
Well, sure, but I mean
So
more like from a creative standpoint. I mean, you're taking like, do you start with one and you're like, well,
it's
this is the one. Which one is the one that you're like, this is the artwork that I would have, and then do you branch to the other 2?
um yeah, like if we talk about like the 3 tier, like I would sort of like start with one and then move from there. But like, like I started basically when I did the Jurassic Park, I started, I think it was the premium that I did first. So yeah, but like you
That's my
never know.
favorite
Sometimes
personally.
like
That's the one I have.
you
The
can
the two
you can
Velociraptors.
yeah, sometimes like you can be working on one though, and then like all of a sudden they're like, you know what? Like I think we probably could use that for premium instead of the pro too. So like, like sometime you work on something and then like along the way things can change. So I don't have a problem like doing 3 different packages though. Like you know y- it's just more artwork for me to do.
Are they layered files? I'm surprised that Stern doesn't take more of the artwork and make more merch out of it from that's like inspired directly from the art that is in the games, and also that they don't use a lot of your artwork in the LCD screens. And we had a pretty long discussion last night about the quality of different pinball manufacturers, screens, and animations, and I'm shocked at how different the LCD screens are in a Stern game from the actual playfield artwork and art package in general versus other companies.
Yeah, well that's not really my decision at the end of the day.
No, I understand that, but I'm
It just didn't happen for me like to work on stuff for the LCD screen back then. Um, I also like as far as usage of what I've done, like yeah, my files are layered and they could use it, but at the same time, it's like a contract with the licensor, like where like if they want to put merch out there, they need to deal with the licensor too. So
sure.
I do know like that they some art some merch was done with some of the Raptors and like the T-Rex, but at that point like I didn't have any input on that. So like they basically
Do you,
they
I
used
guess
some
what I
of
mean
the
is,
artwork
do
that
you
was
think a
done.
cohesive art package is important between all elements of the game, from both the playfield, the backglass, and then the animation that's going on?
Yeah, I mean like that. I think like pinball companies like that's what they have in mind when they do it. Like when like no pinball company is gonna be like, all right, like so the screen's gonna look really like it's coming from a different game. Like, so I think everybody thinks they're doing their best when they put it out there, and it is what it is. Like you gotta work with what you have and try to make the best product that you can.
It's funny you say that too. We've talked a lot about how a lot of people, especially pinball people, love to have an opinion, which I'm sure you're aware of now in the world
Yeah.
of pinball, and quite passionately so. And people will bitch and moan for the most part about why a company did this or that. And I think it's important, especially as someone who works behind the scenes. It's like, as you just said, like nobody that works at any of these pinball companies is trying to make a thing that they think is bad or to try to disappoint anybody. Like they
Yeah.
are trying to make the best
There's
product they can.
there is definitely like a big negative element in pinball company. Like I do understand, like it's like a big toy that you buy, but at the same time, like people are like overly critical of certain aspect of pinball. Like like for the first week, like when a game comes out, like everybody's after like the artist because like it's not the color they wanted, or there's not like the right character they wanted,
Or the
or
IP they wanted.
just
Yeah.
yeah, or but then after that, like they go after the code guy, and then they go after like it's like one after the other. But like basically, usually on the second or third week, like nobody hears about the artwork anymore. Like everybody that hated it has seen one in person, and they're like, you know what? It's not as bad as I thought it would be. So, and then they just play it, and then they have fun with it, and then they're willing to let it go a little bit. So it's just like what you hear a lot at the beginning is like the noise and the people who are like really like you know people feel like the need to be in a camp either like for or against that game. So it's but you can't please everyone, and I think
No.
everyone that works in the industry is really trying to like make the best product like ever. Like and there's a lot of competition, and like between companies, like healthy competition too, because like it pushes everyone forward, like and try to go push pinball further.
Totally. We live in the greatest time for pinball. There's more pinball companies than ever. As a creative person, how do you tune out the noise? Like, I mean, I've worked on projects where people have loved it and it feels awesome. And then you
Yeah.
have somebody that just says something that's so like hurtful that you're just like, man, like, why?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really I listen to a couple of podcasts, but I don't think I follow anyone that is really mostly negative. I can take like criticism if it's like something that can help, like bring the either the next product or like uh, something like further along the way later. Um, but if it's just negative to be negative, like I don't need that. Like I don't.
Right.
The podcasts that I listen to are the ones that are fun about pinball. Like fun and excited, and like if it's not your game, it's not your theme, fine. But you can also just play it, and then if you're having fun with it, you don't have to buy it. You can play it on location, like so it's there's a bit for everyone, I find. And
You've nailed it
people
on the
who are
head.
like yeah.
That you don't have to own the game, and that there's no, I think that there's truly no such thing as bad pinball, just because even if it's a game that you don't want to add to your collection, like you said, you can go on location and play it, and you can experience it for exactly what it is. And even if it's a bad game like Raven or something, like Raven's still fun in this like weird way that it's just like this horrible game that is just like like a C-level movie, or just some absolute trash Hollywood film that's just like kind of redeeming in some way for its like what it's trying
Yeah,
to be.
no, like for sure. I do enjoy, like there's some game that I like less. There's some game that like you know are brutal, but I still play them. There's games that go too long, I still play them. So yeah, I think there's like pinballs for there's stuff for everyone.
True. All right, last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Good Grief asked, do you have any creative voice in what color kind of like the lockdown side rails and legs are for when they do the like special powder coat for everything?
No, we had some discussion, like as a theme. Um, I think like at some point when I was working on the artwork, it came up like, okay, we have to decide where we're gonna go with those and then I gave my 2 cents, and they picked something. I can't remember if it was like what I had picked, what they did now. So, but I think it came out pretty good. Like,
Yeah, it's got like specks. It's got like gold specks in it, and it's like I think this like really dark, rich blue. It looks good.
it's a little sandy, so it's nice. Yeah.
Makes sense. Sand is a good theme when you're making a game about sand.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for options to put more brown on it.
All right, we got to talk about this because it makes a lot of sense to me. I've been thinking about this. Nobody says, menage a trois. Like turquoise makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. So like, can we put it to rest? Like it's turquoise, right?
No, it's turquoise.
No, I'm accepting full responsibility because I say like, petit trois or like menage a trois. Like nobody says menage a trois or tois, So I submit.
Menage a trois doesn't have an E at the end.
That's fair. Okay. So then what is the correct pronunciation? Because Americans, I was born in England, so I guess I'm not technically, but what's the proper pronunciation?
I'm pretty sure that's a French word. So it's turquoise. So, but I do think like turquoise is what I hear the most.
All right. We've solved the mystery. It's turquoise. And on that note, I want to give another absolute huge thank you for taking the time to jump on our little tiny podcast and talk about all the important things of pinball and what's going on with you. I hope you have an amazing time at Golden State and all the other whatever pinball things you're doing, and enjoy some painting, some well-earned oil painting downtime.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Cheers. All right, so everybody hang on. I forgot to do this last time, but as we do on the channel, we always raid a channel that has almost zero followership just to make their day. We like to drop in a bunch of people, and we got a slew of people here, so let's go make someone's day. Thanks again, everybody, for watching the stream. This will be on the stream video on demand later. If you think it's cool, check it out, send it to somebody, and it will be on RSS streams as well for real podcasties. Get you a Spotify or whatever platform that actually gives money to artists instead of stealing it. All right. Later, everybody.